PhD GRM Size 2 replacement parts and repair kits can be found by going to www.phdinc.com. In the Products menu, select Clamps, Sheet Metal, then choose GRM2. Next, click on the CAD Ordering Data Parts tab. Select the styles and options that match the GRM2 that you are repairing. Click on the green Get Replacement Parts button. Find the repair kit part number and contact PhD or your local PhD distributor to order. Before beginning the total rebuild of the Series GRM clamp, you'll need the following tools: a vise, small and large flathead screwdrivers, torque wrench with 4 and 5 mm hex wrench attachments, and 4 and 5 mm hex wrenches, Loctite 222, grease, and a clean and contaminant-free work area. Begin by securing the clamp in the vise in a vertical orientation with the jaws facing up. Make sure the jaws of the unit are in the open position. If the jaws of the unit are not open, insert the screwdriver into the jaw slot in the body between the body and the bottom lip of the jaw driver. The jaws will open. Next, use a 5 mm hex wrench to remove the jaw tips. Once you remove the tips, use a 5 mm hex wrench and remove the impact plates. Now push the drive pin through and out of the unit using your hex wrench. Remove the rollers and sliders from both sides of the unit. Finally, remove the jaw pivot pin and leave your hex wrench in place of the pivot pin. Holding the jaws in place, remove the hex wrench and then remove the jaws. Next, reorient the unit in the vise vertically with the bore plug facing upward. Use a small flathead screwdriver to remove the bore plug retaining ring by prying out and upward on the notched area of the retaining ring. After the ring starts to release, twist the screwdriver until the ring frees itself. Remove the unit from the vise. Insert a 5 mm hex wrench through the drive slot, the hole in the jaw driver, and the other side of the clamp's body. Then push down. The bore plug will pop out. Turn the clamp over and use a 4 mm hex wrench to remove the screw holding the piston to the jaw driver. Remove the piston and rod assembly. Now, remove the rod seal. Using a sharp, thin tool like a small flathead screwdriver, push underneath one edge of the rod seal and pick up the old seal. When removing the piston seal, start on the thick side of the piston seal groove and pull the seal over the head of the piston. You have completely disassembled the clamp. Before reassembly, clean and inspect the parts for damage. For reassembly, begin by thoroughly lubricating the piston and rod. Lubricate the rod seal groove and bore of the clamp's body as well as the rod seal. After lubricating the new piston seal, replace the seal on the piston by wrapping it around the piston in the piston seal groove. To replace the rod seal, it is recommended to use a rod seal insertion tool from PhD. To install the rod seal, when looking down the bore, you'll want the lips of the seal facing toward the open end of the bore and the closed end of the seal facing toward the piston rod hole. Using the insertion tool as shown, insert the lubricated rod seal down into the rod seal groove, making sure it's seated. Next, slide the rod into the bore and through the rod seal. Once the rod is in the unit, you'll need to slide the piston into the bore. Apply more pressure to the piston because the piston seal will begin to compress and it may be stiff to push. Ensure that the piston is seated into the counter bore of the rod. Push the piston to the bottom of the bore and work the rod into place. Place the unit back in the vise. Next, using Loctite 222, apply a little on the end of the threads of the screw and on the inside of the head of the screw. Place the screw inside the tapered counter bore of the piston. Then, thread the piston screw into the jaw driver using the 4 mm hex wrench to tighten the screw. Torque the screw to 85 inch-pounds. Lubricate the bore plug seal and place the seal onto the bore plug seal groove in the body. Make sure the seal is down into the groove. There should be no kinks in the seal. Push the plug into the body with even force. An arbor press is the best method to achieve this. After the bore plug is installed, install the retaining ring by pulling the ends apart and placing one end down into the retaining ring groove and pushing the remainder of the retaining ring down in a circular motion, making sure the ring has remained seated. Rotate the clamp in the vise to install the jaws. You must lubricate the jaw and drive slot areas and inside the pivot pin hole as well as the mating sides of the jaws. You'll be using the pivot pin to reattach and align the jaws to the body and jaw driver in the clamp. Begin by sliding the first jaw into position and push the pivot pin in halfway. Then, replace the second jaw, aligning its pivot pin hole with the pivot pin. Push the pivot pin completely in the second jaw and flush with the body. Next, lubricate the drive pin and put it through the drive slot in the body and first jaw, lining it up with the hole of the jaw driver. Insert the drive pin into the drive slot in the body and first jaw and jaw driver. Now replace your clean and lubricated rollers and insert them onto the drive pin on each side of the clamp. Continue to push the roller onto the pin until it seats inside the drive slot of the jaws. Now take your clean and lubricated sliders and slide them onto the drive pin on each side of the unit until they're seated in the slot in the body. Check for proper assembly. Replace the impact plates. Torque the impact plate bolts to 85 inch-pounds each. Reattach tips and torque to 175 inch-pounds. Apply air pressure and cycle the unit. You have completed the rebuild of the GRM2 clamp.